What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. Our 2023 predictions continue here with the UCLA Bruins. Let's take a look at some of the other predictions here before we get into my predictions. The FPI has them at 7.6 and 4.4. Athlon has them at 8 and 4. The over/under at 8.5. So it seems like this team could be anywhere from 7 and 5 to 9 and 3. That seems to be the consensus here for UCLA. So this is a team that's interesting when you look at their roster. They've got a lot of weapons on offense. This should be an explosive offense once again. You just wonder about the quarterback position, which is a very interesting race. You've got a couple guys that are already on the roster that have some experience. They bring in a transfer. You've got Dante Moore, the big-time recruit, who I think probably is the starter. Maybe not week one, but I think at some point he'll start this year. So they don't have a proven great quarterback, but they've got a lot of solid options. And that the quarterback position is possibly going to determine just how good they are. Defensively, they look pretty solid there as well. So this is a good team. This is a team that I think is not far. We talk about the top 4 teams in the Pac-12: Oregon, USC, Utah, and Washington. I think UCLA is just right behind those teams. I think they're actually closer to those teams than Oregon State is when you look at the entirety of their roster. So this is a team that has a chance to surprise this year and be right there in the thick of things. The problem for UCLA is the schedule and the fact that they've got some really, really tough road games. The way the schedule worked out. I mean, you look at their home games. Look at who they play at home: Washington State, Colorado, Arizona State, and Cal. Well, those are all games that they'd probably win on the road. And then you've got road games against Utah, Oregon State, Arizona, USC. It's just a tough schedule in terms of the home and away splits here. It makes it a very tough schedule. So we'll start at the beginning. Coastal Carolina, San Diego State, NC Central. Obviously, NC Central it should be an easy win. San Diego State on the road, a decent Group of 5 team. That one probably won't be a blowout. And then Coastal Carolina there in week 1 on September the 2nd. That could be an interesting matchup there. Grayson McCall back, a really talented quarterback. I expect this to be a pretty close game, but playing at home, it's hard to go against UCLA. And just overall, their roster talent is better. But again, I think this will be a competitive game. And so those 3 non-conference games should all be wins. I think they get off to a 3-0 start. Then they'll play Utah on September 23rd on the road. Really tough place to play. One of the toughest places to play in the Pac-12. Of course, you've got several places that aren't that tough, but Utah is definitely one of those places that is tough. This is going to be a veteran team, a good team, a physical smash mouth type team once again. And I think that probably wins the day. I think Utah, a little bit better than UCLA, plus playing at home. Really no reason to pick against Utah here. So I'm going to go with the Utes, and UCLA then drops to 3-1. They get Washington State on October the 7th. This should be a pretty competitive game. Probably a lot of points in this one. I could see it staying close, competitive in the fourth quarter, but I think UCLA will win, maybe by 10 to 14 points. I like the Bruins here against, an average Washington State team. They're not going to be bad, but UCLA, again, should be the better team. Then you've got Oregon State on October the 14th. That's a pretty tough place to play. Oregon State is a team that, I think one area where UCLA does have a chance in this game is they've got some really talented wide receivers, and the Oregon State secondary, how good is that going to be? I think this is a tough matchup to pick, and this is one that I really could see going either way. Oregon State, their run game is going to be really, really good. It's probably going to be more of a slower pace for Oregon State versus the up-tempo of UCLA. Both teams really should be good at running the football. UCLA can have a good run game as well. I think UCLA a little bit more balanced on offense, but I just think home field advantage does make the difference here. I think Oregon State wins a close game by a field goal, maybe a game-winning field goal here for the Beavers, and UCLA drops to 4-2. They get Stanford after that on October the 21st on the road. I've talked about Stanford being perhaps the worst Power 5 team this year. They lost a lot of guys, new coaching staff coming in, and they didn't do much at all in the transfer portal. Some of these new coaches can come in and they can bring some immediate help and get some immediate help in the transfer portal and wind up having a pretty good first year. But that's just really not the case here for Stanford. And with all their academics and everything, I guess it's probably hard to get transfers in there. But no reason to pick Stanford in this game. UCLA, even on the road, takes care of business. I think they win easily against Stanford. The next week they'll play Colorado on October 28th. Could be a good one here. I think Colorado is going to be able to score. I think they'll have a pretty good offense overall. I've said this before. I think the starting unit for Colorado is going to be pretty good. I think they've definitely improved. How will it all come together? Of course, that'll be a question mark. But the depth I think is going to be a concern for Colorado. Some of the transfers they brought in are going to be instant impact players that can help them. But they brought in a lot of guys that are I just don't think going to be all that great. So I think UCLA overall, playing at home, more talented team. Some points in this game, pretty close, but UCLA wins it by a couple touchdowns, and they get to 6-2. Next, they'll play Arizona on November the 4th on the road, an Arizona team that I think will also be pretty explosive offensively. This is going to be a really fun matchup. Should be a close game that goes back and forth. I think Arizona's got a big win in them this year. They've been building the last couple of years, and I think that this year is going to be maybe a breakthrough year for them. I don't mean getting to the Pac-12 championship or anything, but I think they maybe get to a bowl game and have a pretty good season. And they're playing at home, so I'm going to go Arizona to pull off the upset. Again, I think they'll get a big upset. UCLA maybe has a letdown game in here somewhere, and I could see it happening on the road at Arizona. Then the next week they play Arizona State on November 11th at home. Arizona State, I've said this before, I think people are maybe underestimating this team a little bit. They've added some really nice transfers, and I don't think they're going to be bad, but they're still going to be behind a team like UCLA. It's at UCLA. I think the Bruins win. But another game that's pretty close, maybe similar to that Colorado game, and at the end of the day, it does go to UCLA. Then they get USC on November 18th. I expect a good matchup here. A lot of points in this one, but playing at home for USC is going to be an advantage, and I think they're just a little bit better. Caleb Williams definitely has the advantage in the quarterback matchup here, and again, I think USC just too much. UCLA won't be able to keep up, and at the end of the day, the Trojans take this one, and UCLA drops to 7-4. And then they'll close things out with Cal. This will be a home game. Cal, a deep veteran team. Are they capable of going on the road and winning a big game like this? I don't know if they're quite going to be that good. UCLA, I think playing at home does take care of business here. A fairly competitive game, and it'll be UCLA's last conference game in the Pac-12, and I think they go out with a win, and they finish at 8-4. So I feel pretty good about this record. As far as the games, I don't think I would really change. Not much that I think is going to go much differently. The only thing that I think might be different is they beat Oregon State or Arizona and maybe get to 9-3. I do not think they'll go 7-5. I think this is an 8-4 or 9-3 team. But all of the wins here, I feel confident that they'll get those wins. So I think, again, you definitely get the 8 wins. And then if they can go on the road and get a big win against Oregon State or Arizona, they might could get to 9-3. But 8-4 are going to be my official prediction here. What are your thoughts on UCLA? What do you think the record's going to be in 2023? Give me your comments down below.